Coming up, we talk to the manager of the Oneida Emergency Food Pantry. We learn about the next 2 installations of a new food sovereignty series from Underscore News, plus a film set on Osage land premieres soon at the Cannes Film Festival. I'm Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Amadawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. As the 22nd session of the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues winds down this week, Maasai representatives hope their pleas are heard and their safety secured. ICT's Stuart Huntington has more from New York.
Maasai leaders want the world's help. They want Tanzania to end efforts to oust them off traditional grazing lands the government says are needed in part for wildlife preservation. The Maasai delegation raised their voices at the UN last week, then got scared.
So the people are not safe, especially the leaders, us who are here in New York, and those who are at the home are not safe.
They said they were photographed by Tanzanian officials and felt intimidated because of what they say is a checkered history. They grew cautious and agreed to speak with ICT News only on the condition of anonymity and not on the grounds of the United Nations.
This is just nothing but land grabbing. Land grabbing in the name of conservation and protected areas, which have been used to displace thousands of people. It is worse than the white colonization of the British and the Germans.
Okay, I have to ask you to come back to that. This is worse than the Germans and the British.
This is worse than the German and British colonial period in Tanzania. This is worse.
It's a crisis, and the Tanzanian government does not appear to be responding to the pleas of the Maasai. And so they have been trying to get the international community to pay attention. So now some of them have come here to tell the story and try to get dialogue going with the Tanzanian government to find a solution to this. And that makes many of us concerned about their safety when they return home.
The Maasai UN delegation has asked the Permanent Forum for an official statement. They want more.
We need beyond a statement. We need action, not just statements. We are dealing with a brutal government. We are dealing with a government which is very undemocratic. We are dealing with a government that have no doesn't respect the rule of law. It's a government that operates under impunity, the culture of impunity. The government that does not respect the court decisions. And this is why global solidarity is critically, very urgently needed to save our people.
Who vow to remain on their lands.
We are not moving out of the land because the land belongs to us. So we are not moving and we are not going anywhere. Let them use the military, let them use the police, but we are not moving.
At the United Nations, Stuart Huntington, ICT News.
The Tanzanian government says it follows national and international laws and maintains there are no indigenous people in the country. It calls the relocations voluntary and necessary. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland is speaking out about her agency's approval of the highly contentious Willow project. Last week, she spoke to reporters at the annual conference of the Society of Environmental Journalists. At the event, she said even though President Joe Biden campaigned on a promise to end new drilling on federal lands, her agency was not, quote, going to turn the faucet off and say we're not drilling anymore. Holland maintained the Biden administration is following the science and the law in everything the Interior Department does. Her comments come after she faced sharp criticism from climate activists when the $8 billion Willow project was approved on March 13th. Many of those in opposition said approving the project contradicts Biden's agenda of cutting greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. Holland said the Willow decision was made in addition to other projects that promote clean energy, saying her agency tried to make the Willow project smaller. The massive drilling plan by the company ConocoPhillips could produce up to 180,000 barrels of oil a day on the North Slope of Alaska. A summer program created by the Federal Emergency Management Agency is looking for Indigenous college students to apply. That's as emergency management preparation has become increasingly important as we experience more severe weather events. The announcement made by FEMA last week is for its summer 2023 Minority Serving Institutions internship. College students in the program will learn about disaster preparedness from emergency management officials. Choctaw citizen and FEMA National Tribal Affairs advocate Kelby Kennedy spoke to ICT about how the program benefits Indian country.
Making sure that our tribal youth know how FEMA works, but then that they can come back and help shape FEMA, help change FEMA internally to be a better agency that Indian country deserves. So the more that we get our tribal youth involved today in the emergency management space, the better prepared Indian country will be, and quite frankly, the better prepared FEMA will be to serve tribal nations in the future.
Tribal college students who are interested have until Friday, April 28th to apply at FEMA.gov. Well, a First Nations residential school survivor has become an overnight millionaire. Thelma Florence from the Cowatil First Nation won the guaranteed prize of $1 million from the Lotto 649 draw held on April 1st, 2023. The winning ticket was purchased at Bee's Food Market in Hope, British Columbia, where everyone was excited about the announcement that a local resident won the lottery. When Thelma discovered she had the winning ticket, she sent a screenshot to her family who thought it was an April Fool's Day joke. It wasn't. The St. Mary's Mission and Residential School survivor says despite being a millionaire, she will continue her journey of spreading awareness of the impact of the residential school system. Florence plans to use her winnings to purchase new vehicles for her and her family. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. The Oneida Emergency Food Pantry has grown tremendously since opening its doors in January of 2017. It has now become a hub for the Oneida community locally and regionally. The organization goes beyond passing out food and is fighting for hunger-related issues, advocacy, and creating equity for Indigenous traditional foods. Marlon Scannendor is the manager of the Oneida Emergency Food Pantry and joins us now virtually. Hi, Marlon.
Hello there. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Tell us more about why the Oneida Emergency Food Pantry was created.
So it was actually started as a petition. Nancy Barton, a community member here, started a petition, got 50 signatures, and she submitted it to our Oneida Business Committee. It actually went in front of our General Tribal Council. It needed a 2/3 vote to pass. And that passed. So then they had 45 days to open a food pantry.
And what is the process for someone or a family to get access to the food?
So being a tribal program, we have one caveat, and that is you have to have at least one Oneida tribal member in the household. So that could be a baby, a relative, an adopted child. You come out, you fill out an application, you show us your tribal ID. There is no income guidelines. There is no boundaries, so to say, with that. So it's a really simple program to sign up for.
And where are you all getting food donations and how are they collected?
So we have myself and then 2 half-time staff and a team of volunteers. So Monday through Thursday, we have donation pickups at Festival Foods, which is a local grocery store. Fresh Time Farmers Market. We're currently going to Hy-Vee grocery store. We have community members that drop off food, Kitchen Fresh Foods, which is like a prepackaged meal site. And then we randomly get calls from logistic companies, truckers that had refused shipments. and they'll come right up to our loading dock, and you never know what that's going to be. Could be a pallet of pickles, a pallet of chips. We'll accept anything really, and then pass that out to the community.
Given that this food pantry started well before COVID started, how did, at least in your experience, you witness COVID, really play a factor into how much food insecurity is an issue?
So before COVID actually happened, I was part of a statewide organization called the Hunger Relief Federation Wisconsin, which allows us as hunger advocates to keep our ear to the ground about things that are happening, how federal policy is going to change the way that we move food and how we serve individuals. So I was a little more prepared than I would say others were. Start stockpiling food, making large shipments and whatnot, getting the food in here so we were well prepared. And it has really shaped the way that people look at hunger. It made it a focal point, and you see it right now because of the fact that food share has gone down. Inflation, the rising costs. We just had 155 families pick up from us on Tuesday, and we're well over, I think, 70, and we just started at 11 o'clock today. So the rise in demand, I think, has made it a focal point that people really need food. We have a lot of elders living on Social Security, single incomes, and they need this extra boost just to get through the months.
Marlon, what are some of the greatest myths that you want to dispel about people who need the food that they get from the food pantry?
Yeah, so there's a lot of stigmas that go into it. There's even people that, they don't want to be seen at a food pantry. So I think kind of jumping into the traditional foods that we offer here has eliminated some of that stigma because of the fresh quality food that we offer, the produce we offer. Right now, we're passing out some ground bison along with some grass-fed beef and other products. So people will come because the quality is there. But also, we have situations where people get in accidents. They work their whole lives. COVID really showed that we eliminated, I think, 1,700 positions, at a drop of a dime. And people didn't know where they were going to get food, so they were coming here. So it's like, it's a combination of a lot of different things, but I think hunger in general needs to be looked at as a top priority. If you have a healthy mind, if you have a healthy body, you're going to go out in life and just focus on things more than just where am I going to get my next meal, kind of leveling up, so to say.
What are some of the success stories that you've seen during your time there?
So one of the greatest things I liked is I had some younger people that were coming in their 20s and 30s, and I would actually talk to them and see where they're at. They're not working. And then I would say, well, why don't you come volunteer with us, put some time in the meantime, and then I can give you a good job recommendation and assist you in that way. So I've helped other people like that and acquire jobs that no longer come. We have families that recently moved here, new tribal members. They move in from Chicago. They don't know what resources are available. I can share, Oneida economic support. If they have children, they can where the WIC office is, where the health center is. And then you see those families get on their feet and then they don't come back anymore. Those are the true success stories, creating the sustainability within their families and themselves where they don't have to come here anymore.
Well, Oneida Emergency Food Pantry Manager Marlon Scannendor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our friends at Underscore News have published a new series called Flexing Food Sovereignty. It is a set of stories that shares the ways cultural knowledge and practices sustain Indigenous people through food. Joining us once again is Nicole Charlie, who is the co-manager of the series. Hi, Nicole.
Hello. Good morning.
The third article in this series is called Root Down. At Warm Springs, a new generation leads the feast, and it was written by Leah Altman. Tell us about the 3 ceremonial feasts that honor the first foods.
In Warm Springs, we have an early spring feast, late winter feast, which is called the Tit. And it's really to celebrate coming out of the winter months and the first greens that grow in our region. Followed by that, we recently had our root feast and salmon feasts in the region, and some feasts are still going on in Nimipu, Nez Perce country. And this season is bountiful. We're blessed with our roots this season, and I've been trying to go out with family as much as I can on days off and weekends to gather, and other families are doing the same. In the summertime, we'll have our Huckleberry Feast, where we'll be celebrating foods from the mountains.
In our earlier interview, we learned how COVID-19 affected the food pantry for the Oneida community. How did COVID-19 affect the feast that had happened?
With COVID-19 in the Columbia River Basin, a lot of communities moved away from public gatherings for any occasions, and that greatly impacted our feasts. Some families moved to small ceremonies just within their own households and immediate family members. I participated in feasts where we pivoted to do activities outdoors with mask and glove and sanitizer, strict policies. We were following guidelines from the tribe and IHS. And it impacted the gathering of our people and the celebration of each food season. And we accommodated as best we could to still honor our creation stories and our teachings and our foodways.
I want to move to the 4th article in this series, which is called Breaking the Law to Uphold It, which was written by Richard Walker. Tell us about the Pacific Northwest tribes that have found themselves in legal battles to access their traditional foods.
In the Walker story, the Coquel tribe was featured, and the Yonker family, and they were practicing their traditional rites in accordance with their treaty to harvest clams. And you've seen it in the past with the salmon wars, with U.S. versus Oregon, the Bolt decision in Washington. These are very, recent cases where organizations like Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission and the Northwest Indian Fish Commission were really born out of, and for tribes to flex their sovereignty and say, these are treaty guaranteed rights. These are rights that we fought long and hard from the 1800s forward to uphold and keep for our people, for our future generations, and for tribal people to gather in their usual and accustomed areas in their ceded lands is a really strong movement that ripples out in the Pacific Northwest.
Nicole, Charlie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The full series of Flexing Food Sovereignty can be found online at _news.com. We'll be right back. The Osage Nation was turned into a movie set last year as Martin Scorsese directed Killers of the Flower Moon. Based on true events, it documents the reign of terror for Osage citizens who found sudden wealth from mineral resources. The movie is set to premiere at the Cannes Film Festival next month. The editor of the Osage News, Shannon Shaw Duty, joins us now to update us on the film. Hi, Shannon.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's been a while since we had you here, so let's just jump right in. The day is almost here. Will any of the local tribal citizens travel to France for the film's premiere?
Yes, they are getting their trips ready. They're getting red carpet ready. There were a lot of Osages that also starred in the film, and they've been invited to attend the premiere, and the Osage News will be there. Also, different actors or actually the set crew and other Osages involved in the film have also been invited to go. So there should be a pretty sizable Osage delegation at the Cannes Film Festival.
Can you give us an idea of just who is in the delegation? Is it elders? Is it young people? Who's going?
I think it's a little bit of both. And also, from what I've heard, our principal chief, Jeffrey Standing Bear, will also be in attendance. So I know that there's a limited number that could make the trip, but young and old, I would say, is going to make the appearance.
And when can we expect to see the film in the United States?
That is going to be released, limited theater release on October 6th, and then it will be widely released on October 20th. And then after that, it will be streamed globally on Apple TV+.
And I don't know if this is in fact true, but I heard some whispers that this is a pretty long film.
It's 3 hours and 26 minutes. So if you sat through Avatar, you can definitely sit through Killers of the Flower Moon. So there were rumors that it was 4 hours and over 4 hours, but no, it's 3 hours and 26 minutes.
Given that you were there, observing some of the scenes that were filmed there in Pawhuska, and now being just days away from actually seeing it on the big screen, what are you personally looking forward to the most?
I really don't know at this. We received 3 images from the film this morning exclusively from Apple, and we published those today. And one of the images is of Indigenous actress Lily Gladstone sitting in Osage dress on a church pew with director Martin Scorsese. And the way that she's taking instruction from Scorsese, and he's holding a rosary, and it was just knowing that our people, what we went through, and how we were, our big influence was Catholicism at that time. And I don't know, it almost made me cry just seeing that, and just knowing all of the efforts that Gladstone puts into her performances. I don't know if I'll be able to handle it, to be quite honest. During the filming and everything, and even there was a scene where the house blows up and it kills members of her family, and we were standing on the side, taking photos and covering it, and the 2 of the crew members were bringing out the dummy of one of the sisters that dies in the accident. So it's her. They were bringing out on a stretcher the dummy of the dead body that's going to be, in the film of her. And that just, we all just kind of stood there and we couldn't catch our breath. Like, we were just watching that. And so I know it will plunge us back into that time and see the real terror and how scared they were, and the depth of the murder and how it affected our community is going to be brought back to us in a way that I don't think we're all prepared for. But I know that, we'll be able to handle it and see that, but I just don't know what to expect. I've heard from others that have already seen the film, who've seen different screenings in New York with Scorsese and DiCaprio, and some say it's a thriller, and some say that, well, it was a little long. And then there's others that say it's a horror film, and that there's a beat through the whole thing of just, this intensity. So that in itself, I am a lover of film, always have been. I can't wait to see it, but I don't know how I'm going to react, and I don't know what I'm looking for. It's all so brand new. It's not like watching another film. It's watching our people and knowing our story and how that still hurts us. And I don't know what to expect until I come out of the theater and have time to reflect.
Is there any other buzz of future movies in Oklahoma, particularly on Osage lands?
Not that I've heard yet. Res Dogs was filming here a few weeks ago, so they were filming near Avant, and one of our photographers was allowed on set. Okay, let me take that back. One of our photographers was invited by the landowner to go on set, but the gracious, ever gracious Sterling Harjo said that she could take a couple of photos, but there was a big actor there, but I can't say who it was. So that did happen, and I know that they are filming an update of Twister, and so I know a lot of Osages that are now in the film industry and have their SAG cards and everything are working in Oklahoma City already on that film set.
Well, also exciting. Osage News editor Shannon Shaw Duty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.